Last video, I flew 2,000 miles to find land and was beginning to give up. But then something on my laptop caught my eye. I had flown to Washington for just a day and a half. I had a list of properties I wanted to see in person and a plan to put an offer on one before I flew home. I had spent hours reviewing 9 challenging properties and reject each one for various different reasons. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can check out part 1. Now, tired and discouraged, I was sitting at a late lunch with my agent Marcus, half-heartedly reviewing my list of remaining properties. And then I noticed something. My list was filtered to just the green properties. Those were the ones within my budget. I removed the filter, and boom, 2 yellow listings appeared. They were close by. They checked all my boxes for the major things I was interested in, but they were way, way over what I wanted to spend. Looking at those 2 properties, I wondered aloud if my budget was simply too low for what I wanted out of the land. Maybe I had to go higher, or look somewhere else entirely. We decided to drive out and see them. On the drive to the first one, I started second-guessing myself. How would I even afford them if I liked them? Was I setting myself up to be tempted into a decision I couldn't afford? The listing photos were fine, but the cleared area didn't look that big. I almost changed my mind at the last minute and suggested we go back to the cheaper listings, but we were almost there, so I decided to go for it. As we approached the property from the gravel road, my breath caught in my throat. The gate. A simple gate amongst the mossy trees, framing a mountain blanketed in a forest behind it. I think I actually said, "Whoa," and then we got out to take a look. As I began to walk up the drive, I was struck by just how much space there was, how much buildable space. Here are some of my first impressions. This is quite encouraging over here. It's a big, long driveway that I won't have to build. Over there looks like quite a slope. Not insurmountable, but I wouldn't want to put a house there. Potentially a garden. Over here, definitely could put a house in here. That's towards pretty close to the neighborhood, though, so. And I see the markers for probably what are perk holes for septic, because I know that they had those done. Oh, wow. I'm seeing off here to the right is electric is in. That's a bonus. I'm loving these big boulders as part of the reveal when you come in. Lots of rubbish down here, but in this moisture, that'll be gone in no time and we can just burn it. Yeah, really pretty view off to the right here. Oh, wow. I don't worry about stuff like this. But what I'm seeing, or what I first saw when I pulled into this property, was this. A really good build site. Wow, and the views to the back. Starting to get a little socked in here, but wow. Yeah, I can see why this one is more, because this has quite a big spot for buildable land. Looks like they might have put in a circle driveway in here. There's a temporary power pole. I don't know if this is fill in the center. As I walked up the drive, I was struck by how much space there was to build. Now, a lot of the lot was sloped, but not in a major way, and it was the right parts that were sloped. The back center would be perfect for a home. Electric was already in, clearing had already been done for the most part, and the views were great. It was very private, but not too private. The neighbor was within screaming distance, which was good. The back section led to mossy woods. It was as I imagined it as a kid. I could imagine summers back there, mushrooms, ferns. The back slope would be perfect for a tiered garden. Lower sections could hold a coop, septic, maybe an orchard, and beyond that, more mossy woods. more privacy. It wasn't perfect. There was a dry stream bed that I found cutting across the bottom of the lot, and at the very bottom of the property, a pretty steep area that I wondered about, though I could still climb it without too much trouble. The property was a little over 6 acres, which was exactly the size range I was looking for. But there was, of course, the price. As I began to walk the area behind where my future home might be, I noticed a very special tree. Now, I'm a huge tree hugger and I really like trees, and this one was something special. It looked like it had been cut down maybe 100 years ago, but it had resprouted and grown back. I took it as a little bit of a sign that this super cool tree was lined up probably right behind where my living room was going to be. But I kept going. There was more to see. But I could have a really gorgeous little shade garden back here. Wow. The images you're seeing as I walk through this area really don't do it justice. It was extraordinary. Absolute quiet. So beautiful. I knew it was something special. But I was beginning to get pretty worried. I was really, really starting to like this property. Back end of the property line kind of goes up where that pink thing is up there. I don't know if I'm doing a good job filming this. Wow, look at these. Just nuts. Yeah, this is mine. These are mine. There's a big cedar right there. Wow. And then up on the hill up there, public land. It was in these mossy woods where the internal struggle really started. I had promised myself I wouldn't be impulsive. This property was $45,000 over my land budgets. I'm older. I'm nearing retirement. If I did this, something else was going to have to give. Would I need to stay in corporate longer than I was planning? Extend my time of work before I finally get to retire? Compromise on my crazy custom dream house that has the greenhouse attached to it in my sketches? Delay building further so that I could save for longer? I told Marcus that I needed to sleep on it. When I woke up the next morning, I was still unsure, so I drove back to the property alone. While I was there, a guy drove up, which raised my Chicago hackles a little bit, but then he started talking. Turns out he was the owner. He was warm and friendly and told me all about the neighbors, the town, the area. He talked about how his dad had loved imagining how different parts of the property would eventually be used. I had a lot of questions, everything from crime to cougars to the neighbors. His answers helped eliminate a lot of my doubts, but there was still the issue of the price. Then he said something that gave me an aha moment. He mentioned that he had done a lot of his own home projects himself, and that the Home Depot wasn't that far away. And suddenly it clicked. I realized that I had a way to get the land without blowing my budget. I could take on a large part of the home build myself, basically everything after the framing and the roof. I could trade the convenience of having builders do everything for the ability to buy a better property. So I got in the car and I called Marcus. I was back in the woods here when I did that. I told him to make an offer. I was pretty excited at this point and honestly a little worried that someone was going to steal it from me. Making that offer changed a lot in my life. Now I have this huge project slowly unfolding, and slowly is the key word there, on the land, while I'm still working a typical 50 to 60-hour corporate job. And on top of that, I've added a whole list of DIY projects trying to get my current home ready for market before the new one is built. Everything's changing, but it's also incredibly exciting. In my next video, I'll share what happened after the offer. Thank you for watching. I decided to try this YouTube thing not to become an influencer or get rich. What I really like about YouTube, especially homestead and build channels, is how helpful the commenters can be. The comments can be an incredible source of information and experience. So if you've left a helpful comment or shared an interesting tip, Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.